Deeply regret to inform you were the opening words of a telegram received by a mother, wife, sister, or next of kin informing them of the fate of a loved one in the conflict that was the First World War. The First World War, or as it was referred to in the course of its duration and aftermath, the Great War, took place between the years of 1914 and 1918. Ireland, as part of the United Kingdom, was drawn into the conflict, one which saw Britain at war with Germany, the conflict largely taking place along the Belgian-French border, a region that came to be known as the Western Front. Often referred to as the First Industrial War, weaponry such as machine guns had developed, artillery was of a more destructive nature, aircraft saw use, as indeed did poison gas in its various forms such as chlorine, phosphagen and mustard gas. I speak a little of gas as one family was to receive a telegram relating how their son had been gassed, it being the cause of his death. Aside from telegrams, the other form of communication used to inform families of the fate of a loved one was a letter, the more dominant method of communication. To call it a letter was a bit misleading. It really was a standard form with the casualties' details filled in, and often described as being cold and soulless in its presentation. As regards telegrams, despite the chaos of war, news by telegram could be communicated very quickly from the trenches of the Western Front or the casualty stations and hospitals that lay behind the lines. News was communicated to the Cahir Post Office, and as telegrams were expensive to send, their wording was kept to a minimum. The post office worker translated, as it were, the beeps that came through into a discernible, readable language, writing down in his own hand the words being communicated to him, passing the telegram to a telegram boy who would subsequently deliver it to the family. The words were brief but brutal in their intensity that were written on the telegram. Confirmation of death was not always contained within a telegram. Sometimes it was notification that one was a prisoner of war. The pain in this regard no doubt was eased, knowing that the soldier, though incarcerated, was now far from the battlefield. Sometimes it was notification a family member had been wounded. Some degree of relief must have ensued in this regard, for wounding was not death. Sometimes it was notification someone was missing in action. This gave some hope. It was not final, but in truth the reality of such wording usually meant death. But for many, a telegram carrying the words "deeply regret to inform you," naming the casualty, died of wounds, was commonplace. Amongst those who received such telegrams in Cahir were Mary Walsh of Abbey Street, mother of Joseph, and Mary Bowles, mother of Robert. Both died in April and May 1918 in France in the course of a massive German offensive on the Western Front. Joseph served in the Royal Engineers, more specifically in the Signal Corps, seemingly a wireless operator. On the 18th of April, he was the victim of gas inhalation, exposed to the effects of an exploding gas shell. Death was not immediate. He was transported to a hospital in the French city of Rouen, where he died a week or so later. A telegram was subsequently received by his family bearing the words, "Deeply regret to inform you," stating he had died as a result of the effects of gas. Robert Bowles, an officer in the Royal Dublin Fusiliers, having been wounded in action, was taken to the French village of Eblingham to a casualty clearing station near the French city of Lille. Here he died, aged 22, as the result of a gunshot wound to the chest on the 6th of May. On the day he died, his mother received a telegram stating her son was wounded and dangerously ill. Unknown to her, that same day her son would die. The following day she received a telegram opening with the words, "Deeply regret to inform you that your son has died of wounds." Many of these telegrams had found their way to Cahir homes during the First World War, since it had begun in August 1914, and more were to be received late into the year of 1918, when hostilities eventually ceased in November of that year.